You're listening to Love Bites, Book 2 in the Bloodsucker's blog trilogy. Written by Ella Stone, narrated by Hannah Lynn, and produced by Papercat Publishing. Blog post 46. Date September the 20th. Followers 52,988. Time 11 p.m. Be honest now, how many of you believed I was gone forever? I'm not going to lie. I thought about it for a while. Actually, I nearly deleted the whole blog account more than once, but it turns out I can't stay away. What can I say? I missed you guys. Besides, there is so much to talk about. Literally loads. I'm practically a changed vampire. Not changed in the fact that I'm human again. Nope, definitely still dead, but you know what I mean. I'm doing stuff now. Compared to this time last year, I'm living a completely different life. And there's so much I want to tell you about. But before I talk about my amazing new life, there are a couple of things I should probably get out there first. In case you're new here, I thoroughly recommend that you look back to the blog post 1 on the 2nd of March and start reading from there. You'll get all the gory details of my life imploding in those previous blogs, and trust me, some of them are seriously gory. But it's been a while, and I'm sure lots of you will ask for it, so here's a quick recap. 7 years ago, when it became clear that my cancer had come back and was terminal, my mum secretly arranged to have me turned into a vampire. To make matters worse, she also hid the fact that, during the one time I left the house in all those years, I managed to sire my own vampire offspring. Not sure what the name for that would be. If anyone has any ideas, please let me know in the comments. Anyway, it turned out that Mum had taken this unlucky man, Christopher, and kept him prisoner in one of our barns for 5 whole years. She was feeding him just enough blood to stop him from desiccating, but keeping him too weak to escape. How psychotic is that? Anyway, he eventually did get out, and my dad paid the price for what had been done to him. Yeah, that was pretty messed up. Watching your dad have his neck snapped by a monster that you created can sure screw with your head. Glen, my baby brother, told Mum to leave. He was star rugby player and straight-A student with a talent for computer hacking before all this went down. But now he's struggling. Sure, he got through his A-levels, but every night he wakes up screaming from nightmares. We don't talk about Mum. We don't even say her name. She cost Dad his life, and she robbed Glen of 7 years of his childhood while she fixated on me. That's not something either of us will be able to forgive. Thankfully, now Glen and I have moved out of the family home and into our uni house on the other side of the country, there's no chance of bumping into her. There's no way she'd be stupid enough to turn up here. Not now. So yes, the big move. Can you believe it actually happened? I'm hoping that this year here in Wales will be the fresh start Glen needs. The sea air, the rolling hills, not to mention studying medicine to keep him seriously busy. He'll have more than enough to keep his mind off everything we went through. With my blood reserves in dangerously low supply, and the fact I only have 3 people I can call on for donations, Glen's also been helping out at the university clinic a few days a week, hoping he'll get to be involved in some of the university blood drives, though he'll need to cut down on that once term begins. Obviously, I feel like shit. Once again, Glen's life has been railroaded by my needs. But I think he's been enjoying the volunteering, and hopefully he'll enjoy the course too, and maybe make a couple of friends, or even start dating again. Another thing that's really got him down is his breakup. I don't know if you guys remember, he was seeing this guy and they'd been together for ages. He was Glen's first real boyfriend, and they'd been confident they could make it work long distance. But then Joe decided he didn't want to spend his first year at university tied down. Arsehole. He was never good enough for Glen in the first place, but it still sucks. So, for the first time in nearly a decade, I have a boyfriend and Glen's heartbroken. Not that he begrudges Noah and me being happy. Of course he doesn't. But it's so hard seeing him in such a bad place. I wish there was some way I could help him. Before I tell you all about Noah, which I know you're desperate to hear, I need to mention the house we're living in because I love it. We're no longer isolated in the middle of nowhere in the English countryside. We're the proud tenants of a damp, 3-bedroom terraced house in the excessively rainy town of Aberllaron. It's wonderful. Well, it's actually horrible, but it's all ours. Glen went ahead of me and stayed in temporary digs. He had to fight like crazy to get this place because first years are supposed to all live in halls. Every day he was down at the university housing office, banging on about how they had to make allowances for my special needs. The photosensitivity, that is. Not the vampire bit, obviously. And that it would be in violation of my human rights if they didn't. He forged doctor's notes, old medical records, anything and everything needed to convince them that I had to be with him in private accommodation and could not, under any circumstances, share with another student. Anyway, after days of battling, it worked. And here we are. So, we've been here a little over 2 weeks now. It's not ideal yet, but we're getting there. The university supplied blackout blinds for the windows, although we're still missing one for the back door, which has a massive pane of glass in it. I can avoid it, but Glen's not letting it go. Trust me, he's not someone to get on the wrong side of when he gets a bee in his bonnet. Understandably, he really wants to get it all sorted before lectures start. Lectures. I can't believe how amazing that sounds. I'm going to go to lectures, write essays, and get a degree. Don't worry, I do understand there's a long way to go yet. But this is the start. I'm going to be studying English literature. Next week, I have to pick my electives for the year and sign up to the modules I want to do. Then the following week, I'll be in class. It's unbelievable. I still can't get my head around the fact that it's all happening, that I'm actually going to do this. Honestly, I've been going out of my mind with excitement. I don't even really care what classes I'm in. Okay, that's enough of me getting overexcited. If your comments last time taught me anything, then I know what you're waiting to hear about. Noah. Assuming you guys are as nosy as you were when I set up this blog, I might as well get in there first and tell you about us before all the questions start. So, he's amazing. He's chilled, loving, fine with the fact I'm a vampire. He's the perfect boyfriend. I just wish he was closer. While packing up and relocating was relatively easy for me, it was tough on him. When we met, he was living in East London and the commute to our house wasn't too bad. But to get to where I am now is over a 5-hour drive, and that's not sustainable with how much we want to see each other. So he's been looking at moving to Bristol, where there are great prospects for an artist, and it's a darn sight closer. Still, he helped Glen and me with the move, and he's managed to come up this weekend. In fact, he's asleep next to me as I type this. I'd say it's as close to the perfect relationship as possible. Almost. You know what? When I started writing this again, I promised myself I wasn't going to go down the route of telling you every little detail of my life. But I just find it so easy to open up on here. I can't really talk to Glen about this stuff. And Lavisa, remember her? Lives in London, works in finance, getting married. She's so caught up with wedding plans that I didn't want to put this on her either. So I might as well confess to you. There's just one little thing that's missing from our relationship. Sex. Blog post 47. Date, September 21st. Followers, 53,112. Okay, That wasn't the place I intended leaving off yesterday. Only Noah was stirring in bed and started complaining about the light from my phone, so I had to turn it off. As I said, we sleep in the same bed. We engage in some pretty hot kissing and cuddling, but that one final step seems to be eluding us. As you know, I don't have loads of experience in that area, having been turned into a vampire and spirited away by my parents before my ex-boyfriend, Finn, Noah's older brother, just in case you forgot, and I took things that far. So I'm hoping that maybe you could help put my mind at ease on this one thing. Last night we curled up watching an action film on TV. I think I've said before, but Noah is a massive action film fan. Anyway, he started stroking my arm, and that's when I stopped thinking about the film, or university, or anything else really, and we started making out on the sofa. Kissing him, well, it's incredible. All my vampire senses go into overdrive as I drink him in. Not literally, but his smell, the heat from his skin, the beat of his heart. And so my hands wandered down to his belt buckle. Is this too much information? I don't care. It's my blog. He didn't stop me. He moved his lips up to my ear, where he continued to kiss me before whispering, "We're taking this slow, remember?" Any passion I'd been feeling immediately evaporated. There's something about the prospect of going all the way that causes him to freeze. "Admit it," I said, sitting up and flicking my hair away from him. "You don't want to sleep with me because I'm a vampire." Knowing that the film was now a lost cause, he picked up the remote and turned it off. "I do want to have sex with you, Ren," he said, scooping me up into his arms and lifting me onto his lap. "Believe me, this is just as hard on me as it is on you." "Really? Because, believe me, it's hard. And it has nothing to do with the fact you're a vampire. If anything, I'm weirdly turned on by it. I find it sexy how damn strong you are." I started running my fingers down the back of his neck. "Then maybe we should head upstairs?" He pulled my hands away and linked them with his. "But whatever you say, you've got a lot going on at the moment. All the stuff with your mum and dad." I pulled my hands back. "No, you do not get to do that. Rin, just listen." "No, you don't get to bring them into this." "All I'm saying is that you've had a lot to deal with. I don't want to add to that." "Having sex with you will not add to my stress," I protested, going back to his belt. "Having sex will relieve it. If you really love..." And that's when I stopped talking. Because along with not having sex, there's one other thing missing in our relationship. The fact is, we still haven't said those words. The guy let me drain his blood and dump him half dead at a hospital. But he still hasn't told me he loves me. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe 4 months isn't such a long time. I can't remember how long Finn and I had been together when we said "I love you." But I do remember that, in the end, I was the one who said it first. I was so sick of waiting. But Noah's different. After all we've been through, he should have said it to me by now. Right? Look, I know I could say the words first, like I did with Finn, but I was young then, and human. I don't know why it matters, but it does. All I keep thinking is, what if he doesn't say it back? What if I say it and he just leaves me hanging there in an awkward silence? Or even worse, replies with one of those lame, "Oh, well, thanks, I really like you too" lines. That would be gutting. World-crumblingly gutting. And it's not like he hasn't slept with plenty of other girls before me. I know he has, even if he won't admit it. Ugh! I hate how much headspace this is taking up right now. "Look, I just worry that there are emotions you haven't fully processed yet. Feelings about your mum, for instance, he said. She was a liar and a manipulator. She's gone from my life and I'm fine with that, I said. I'm better than fine, actually. It's all good. I wish I'd found out earlier what she did, so I could have started this life on my own then. Exactly, he replied, giving me a weirdly knowing look. That's precisely what I'm talking about. What? The fact that I'm fine? You're not fine. You're mad. And that's okay. But you pretend you're okay when you can't be. Look at Glen. Glen's a mess. Glen's acting normally. He's grieving. He's hurt and angry. Maybe it's the vampire part of me, I suggested. Maybe it makes me calmer when a family member tries to completely ruin our lives. Noah's look progressed to withering. I do get it. I understand why he thinks I'm not letting myself feel things fully. It's probably because I've become really good at compartmentalising. That's all. I was about to say as much to him when I heard the front gate swing open. Glen's home, I said. It was a couple of seconds before the key turned in the lock, loud enough for Noah's human hearing to pick it up. I'm not sure I like that you can do that, he said. Hey, Glen called through from the hall. How was volunteering? I called back to him. Not bad, he replied, appearing in the doorway. It's quite late, I said. I went for a run. I'm probably not going to get much of a chance when lectures start. Any news about the blood drives? I asked. He shrugged. They say they'll organise one at some point before Christmas, but it could be months away. This wasn't exactly ideal. I could sense a cloud descending on us, so I made the decision to shoo it away before it could settle. Noah's here, I pointed out, rather unnecessarily considering I was sitting on his lap. Glen nodded, his expression still pensive and pained. Give me 5 minutes and then I'll get everything set up for you. Did anyone drop off a curtain for the back door, by the way? No, not yet. You know, I can put up the bag by myself, I said, and Noah knows how to as well. It's better if I do it, he replied, then disappeared upstairs. Noah sighed. So he's still trying to control everything, he said. Yep. A silence expanded between us before Noah spoke again. I guess we should do what he says. Time for me to earn my keep. Before Mum left, she'd stolen one last sizable donation of blood bags. A blatant attempt to buy our forgiveness. It didn't work, but I took them anyway. Previously, that amount would have been enough to keep me going for months. But that was my old life, the one where I didn't do much or go outside. Once again, for those of you who are new to this, you should probably go back and read some of the older posts. There are loads of FAQs there like, can you go out in the sun? Yes, if I'm completely covered and have sunscreen on, but I dehydrate really quickly. But now I do go out a lot, and I find myself needing more and more blood. You know you can feed directly from me, Noah offered, as the shower ran upstairs. It might be easier in the long run. And Glen can arm himself with a tranquilizer in case you go too far. We're short on tranks as it is, I replied, thankful for a genuine reason to reject his offer. Mum used to get those too, remember? Okay, your call. I guess I'd better go get ready to hook up. It's not the most romantic part of his visits, but between him, Lavisa and Glen, I've been able to get about enough blood that I don't start to feel too bad or have to resort to anything drastic. Are you sure he's okay to do this again? I asked Glen, as he patted the inside of Noah's arm in search of a vein. I don't want him to pass out or anything. It's only been 3.5 weeks since last time. Don't worry, I'm good, Noah said, lying back on the sofa. He'll be fine, Glen assured me. We only take a pint at a time, but even with 3 of them, they're still donating more often than they should. a pint. That much used to do me for nearly 2 weeks. Nowadays I'm lucky if it lasts one. Fortunately, we still have nearly a dozen of Mum's bags, so with the 2 or 3 a month from Glen, Noah and Lavisa, I'll be able to manage for a few months more. Hopefully, by then, Glen will be helping out at some blood drives. If not, things are going to get tricky. Mind you, it won't be as easy for him to misappropriate donations as it was from my mother, who'd been in charge. Once we were done, Glen headed for bed, and with the film now abandoned, Noah and I went upstairs too. We've got into the habit that he sits on the bed, up against the headboard with his sketch pad, doodling whatever comes to mind, and I rest against his knees and read. Or sometimes I take myself off to the spare room, where my electric drum kit is set up. I put on my headphones, and I hammer out a few riffs, then curl up with him when I'm done, my head on his chest until he falls asleep. So, it's pretty awesome even if we're not having sex, although there does tend to be a fair bit of other stuff going on. Unfortunately, there wasn't much time for cuddles or anything else this morning, as Noah had to be up at 5 to get back to London. "I'm hoping to get the rest of my gear back from my old place this week," he said, as he held me close, his hands hooked around the back of my neck. "Otherwise, I'll have to go do some serious shopping." "I still can't believe that your old flatmate is holding on to all that stuff that's yours," I said, shaking my head. "It's stealing. Do you want me to go round and show him my thanks?" While my life had undoubtedly been the main source of drama recently, Noah's wasn't without its own. Not long after we started dating, he was forced to move out of his rented house, and his old flatmate was now making it difficult for him to get some of his art supplies and other things out. Meanwhile, he's been stuck couch surfing when he's not at ours. You'd think his flatmate would want rid of Noah's belongings so someone else could move in. But hey, you can't account for crazy. With a chuckle, he brushed a strand of hair behind my ear and kissed the spot just below my temple. "I don't think you're exposing you're a vampire for the sake of a couple of guitars and a few other bits and bobs is the best idea," he said. "Don't worry, I'll be fine." "When will you be able to visit again?" I said, not wanting to sound needy. "I'm not sure, but as soon as I can. I promise." And that's it. That's where we're at. I'm living as close to a normal life as I could ever have dreamed possible. And that's definitely how things are going to stay, if I get my way. If only I could find a way to make Glen happier. Blog post 48. Date September the 21st. Followers 53,207. Yay! Questions! I love this. I'm so glad I turned the comments back on. I hadn't realised how much I'd missed interacting with you lot until I saw your notifications. It's so sweet of you all, wishing Noah and me the best. And thank you for reminding me that a guy who wants to take things slow is a rare beast. Deep down, I knew that, and I know how lucky I am. So, with me feeling a fair bit better about my situation, let's get to answering some of your questions. What's it like living in your own place? Several of you asked this. First off, Glen and I have essentially been doing this since Mum left home, and it's really only the location that's changed. We're obviously having to be very careful with our finances. Our student loans aren't huge, and while we've got some money that our grandparents left us when they passed away, it was meant to be used for big things, like house deposits or whatever. So we're trying not to dip into that too often. Fortunately, my grocery bill is nil, although medical supplies can add up. The town is pretty quiet at the minute, so I've been able to go out and about quite easily. I suspect all that will change when the rest of the students arrive at the end of the week. Hopefully, though, once I've started making friends, I'll be able to socialise a bit. I think clubs will be a no-go area for me at first, although I'll have to test myself with over 100 people in a lecture hall. But at least they won't be bumping into me, with their hearts hammering and hormones racing. There are quite a few little bars I'd like to check out, though. Excitingly, I've started cooking. Obviously, I don't eat what I make, but weirdly, that doesn't bother me at all. I've got a few specialities down already. I've made fajitas a couple of times and a great spag bowl. In fact, my plan today is to try, wait for it, lasagna from scratch. Well, nearly from scratch. I'm not going to make the pasta, and it might be easier to buy the sauce in a jar, but it'll be close to homemade. Better than a ready meal, anyway. It's my way of trying to make it up to Glen for all the time he's been spending volunteering at the clinic and running back and forth to the housing office trying to get the curtain situation sorted. I said I'd go myself, but I swear he's convinced that the minute someone disagrees with me, I'm going to pop out my fangs and pin them against a wall. Yeah, Noah told him about that little incident. Brothers, eh? They worry about the silliest of things. So, after finishing this post, I'll be off to the shops, covered in sunscreen, shopping list in hand. Maybe, if it turns out well enough, I'll turn this into a food blog too. Bloodsuckers and bananas? Vampires and vol au vents. Okay, the name would need a little work. Anyway, I'll let you know how it goes. All right, I got sidetracked there. Really sorry. Let's get back to the questions. Did you inform Christopher's family about his death? God, questions about Christopher aren't really where I was hoping to go, but I suppose this is valid, so I should answer it. If you're not new to the blog, you'll remember that when Glen killed Christopher, the vampire I had unknowingly sired, we left his corpse where it was, in Colchester Castle. That might sound careless if you haven't read the other posts, but trust me, there was a lot going on. Glen wiped all the CCTV camera footage, so there was no evidence of us being there. But with all the glass cabinets that had been smashed up during our fight, something violent had obviously taken place. Unsurprisingly, though, the police didn't have a clue what that was. We know this because Glen hacked into their database at least twice a day to check. The castle staff put signs up outside saying it was closed for renovations, and the case was closed in less than 2 weeks. It turns out that Christopher had never been registered as a missing person. 5 years he'd been gone, and no one even cared. I suppose I should be happy about that, but I'm not. Honestly, it makes my heart ache even thinking about it. No one deserves to leave this world completely forgotten. But that's the end of the story for him. Sorry, I can't give you more. Who killed the old lady in Levisa's apartment block? Understandably, a lot of you have asked this, and it's something I've spent a ton of time thinking about myself. I am 99% certain that on the night I was at Levisa's engagement party, a vampire was in the same building. And it seems likely that was who killed the old woman. But it couldn't have been Christopher. He was still locked in our barn at that point. As to who it was, your guess is as good as mine. But it wasn't me, and it wasn't him. That's all I know. Are you going to look for other vampires? This is a tricky one, and I've debated the idea with myself constantly after what happened. I have now come to a decision, and the answer is not yet. I'm not saying I won't look into it again eventually, but I have enough going on right now, and the last thing I want to do is bring more drama into Glen's life. He deserves a little respite. We both do. I'm not giving up the idea, though. I might just give it a decade or two. After all, if anyone's got time, it's me. Speaking of which, it's time for me to get going. It's nice and cloudy outside, which is my favourite type of weather for heading out. Don't worry, I'll let you know how the lasagna goes. I might even include a picture, if it's any good. Blog post 49, date September 21st, followers 53,555. Fuck. Seriously, breathe, Merrewyn, breathe, before your fangs pop out. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. I don't know why I'm writing this down. I should be doing something. And all I'm doing is standing in the kitchen trying to block the fridge. Why the fuck won't Glen answer his bloody phone? Blog post 50. Date September 21st. Followers 53,590. So much for a drama-free life. But as there's nothing I can do to sort it out right now, I thought I might as well get on here and fill you in on what's just happened. Now, I'm sure some of you are waiting for me to say that I overreacted and that my meltdown on the previous post was completely disproportionate to the gravity of the situation. You're probably expecting me to tell you that everything's now sorted. Well, that would be a lie. I did not overreact, and my response was not disproportionate. It was truly proportionate. Nothing is sorted, and I am nowhere near fine. I just hope that Glen can figure this out. Otherwise, everything will go to shit, and we'll have to leave. There's no way we can live like this. None at all. Okay, I know I need to backtrack a bit. As you know, my one aim this morning was to prepare the perfect lasagna. That was it. A lovely surprise for Glen to make his life a little less terrible and show how much I appreciate all the things he's done for me. Lasagna versus staking a vampire. I know it's not exactly an even trade, but I'm trying. To be honest, perfect may have been an overstretch. Decent was all I was aiming for. A decent lasagna. After finishing my post, I had every intention of heading straight out, but that didn't happen. I ended up lying on my bed with a book. What I'd promised myself would be a 20-minute read turned into a 3-hour stint, by which point it was midday, and I wasn't about to go out then, even if it was cloudy. Sure, I'd have been fine if I covered up properly, but what was the point when I had no other plans? So, with that decided, I carried on reading. At about 3, I headed to the shops, coated in Factor 100 and wearing a long-sleeved hoodie and jeans. As it was a wonderfully overcast day, I took a detour through the park, with its manicured gardens full of flowers and a massive lake complete with fountain in the middle. I think I'd spent so long in my old house, rarely venturing outside, that I'd forgotten how colourful nature could be. I must have spent an hour taking it all in and seeing which trees and flowers I could remember the names of. But then my temples began to throb a little, and I knew it was time to get a move on. Shops nowadays are baffling. Truthfully, it's been a long time since I did a supermarket trip, and even then, Mum didn't really trust me to get much. It was probably just something like toothpaste or bread and milk. The kind of stuff a kid can't screw up. Well, in case you weren't aware, supermarkets have got so much bigger in the last 10 years. Loads bigger. Seriously, there must have been 14 types of pasta sauce just for lasagna. And that's before you got onto the white sauces. It was a stressful decision, I'm telling you. But I did my best. I paid for my purchases and headed home, skipping the park because I wanted to get the mince into the fridge. I was still debating whether I'd bought the right meat. Lamb? Beef? I'd gone with beef, I don't know. I stuffed it in next to a pint of Noah's AB negative. Yep, my boy's a rarity. Now, the recipes for homemade lasagna all seem to recommend cooking it slowly, and I wanted to get straight on it, but the way I have to apply sunscreen, it gets everywhere, including under my fingernails and even in my eyebrows. It's totally gross. Given that I wasn't planning on leaving the house again and I was about to prepare food, I thought I should probably have a shower first. However, before I'd even made it as far as the stairs, I heard the shower running. First off, I assumed Glen was back for some reason, but a quick sniff didn't pick up his familiar scent. In fact, there was something decidedly odd about it, something non-human, and mixed in with the smell of soap. "Glen?" I called, just to make sure the sunlight hadn't dulled my senses. Feeling more than a little apprehensive, I reached the top of the stairs, crossed the landing, and pushed open the bathroom door. There, in the middle of the room, was a small dog. Yes, you read that right. There was a dog in my bathroom. For a few seconds, he and I stared at one another. Guys, I am not a dog person. It's not that I don't like them. It's just we never had one at home. Just poor Loki. Besides, you'd assume that if there was going to be a dog in my house, I would have known about it beforehand. Anyway, as I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on, the shower stops running, the curtains pulled back, and there's a woman. Yes, now a dog and a strange woman. Hey, you must be Merrewyn, she said, stretching out her hand and dripping water onto the floor at my feet. It's so good to meet you. I swear, not a word of a lie, stark naked, this woman, this obscenely beautiful woman, I might add, introduces herself like we're meeting at a freaking work do. I was speechless, totally dumbstruck. Even writing this, I'm having trouble making sense of it. She was still standing there with this most perfect smile, her black hair dripping down her front as I stumbled backwards out of the door and fumbled for my phone to get hold of Glen. I have no idea what the hell is going on. I just hope Glen can get it sorted. And fast. You've been listening to the latest instalment of Love Bites, Book 2 in the Bloodsuckers blog trilogy. Written by Ella Stone, narrated by Hannah Lynn, and produced by Papercat Publishing.